My name is Kimo, and this is
Kirabo.
And today we're going to be talking about the conflicts that may arise in a relationship, but we're going to kind of impart our own knowledge as to
Just at least how we navigate.
how we navigate. We can't really speak for everybody, that's very true.
Yeah.
But it's just more of a, this is how we be doing it, and it works for us.
One thing I will say is that we had a conflict today that I feel, yes, at the time it was hype, like not crazy, like belligerent. I don't want to have that misunderstood because I just don't really think that's the way that we interact. But what I will say is that the way that you like came and talked to me after, every time you talk to me like that, I always feel like, oh my god, this is my heart, love of my life, my king. Seriously. You're just very direct and gentle and so smart. I don't know. What if it can't be achieved unless you're smart?
Don't say that. Don't say that, yo.
Only because...
You're going to offend a bunch of our viewers who are men.
Hey, what? I wasn't talking about men. What the heck?
That's fair. That's fair.
I was just talking in general.
Okay. That's fair.
You took it like that. That's not even what I was saying. I really wasn't. I was saying truly in general. I don't know if certain levels of amicability is possible.
It's really just emotional stability, at the end of the day.
Well, yes. I don't think it's possible for certain levels of having an amicable way in which you speak to one another unless you're a little smart or emotionally intelligent, really.
That's funny. I agree. It does require a bit of emotional intelligence to even attempt to do what I do. I'm not trying to gas myself up.
You can gas yourself.
No, but only reason why I'm saying that is because the only reason why it works for me is when I thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why it works for me is when I take a step back and you have to look at the big picture. That's really all it is you have to look at the big picture as to why conflicts even arise. And when you can take a step back and look at the big picture, then you can start to realize that there are certain factors that were at play. Now, that doesn't mean that, you shouldn't find accountability and some of the things that you do.
I think that's part of it. But I think the emotional intelligence thing, like you were saying, is a major factor as to, for example, I think that in the past, if I were, for example, in a conflict with someone that, maybe was in a romantic relationship and they were someone who had not truly sat with themselves and really developed their emotional intelligence, because I think, yes, to a degree it can be innate, to another degree it's fostered as an individual that's seeking to have that level of intelligence emotionally. Otherwise, nothing is, I could say, inherently guaranteed, but I do think certain people have a predisposition towards a more empathetic sense or more emotional awareness towards others. I feel like you're a very analytical and accountable person, and
I appreciate
but you're not a harsh and judgmental person. You're just your demeanor is very gentle. I know so many people where even if they are owning up to something, there's this level of aggression or defensiveness, as if to say, yeah, but there's still no fault of mine.
I was gonna say, there are people that have the emotional capacity to do a lot of things, but it's really, I think what it boils down to is intention, because a lot of people, is they get into relationships just because everyone else is in a relationship and that's the thing to but like we were saying about intentional movement in a relationship, because I feel like a lot of people, they get into relationships where they genuinely don't love the person, they just love the idea of it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just like the idea of it, when stuff doesn't go your way, you don't really have the emotional capacity to try to fix stuff when stuff goes bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
I agree.
So I do appreciate what you said, but I do believe that a lot of people do have the, capacity to do it if they actually had the intention of trying.
I hope so. You know what I've said about this in regarding to capacity?
Yeah.
I would hope, but I don't really believe that. I know a few people who are quite older now, and I feel very doubtful over their capacity as it pertains to them being like emotionally disciplined and coherent individuals. I think it takes intentional work, yes. I think you have to kind of have a predisposition to an extent. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe what it is that a lot of times, like for you, for example, you were really socialized toward being this person per se. Because, for example, like if I'm thinking about my dad, his generation, the men of that generation were not socialized toward having a wider emotional capacity. That's not to say that none of them have it. And that's not to say none of the women have it either. It's just to say you have to oftentimes think about what has been trained into you, not only by the people you were raised by, but by the society of the time in which you exist. Like your context is always important. That's what I was saying yesterday when we were talking about the Bible. But I think that if you're in consideration, okay, you're saying, okay, I have a partner, or rather, scratch that. You say, I understand myself to be a person who is intelligent with great emotional awareness and patience and the ability to hear someone, speak with them, etc. Whatever you want to say. If you then are saying I want to pursue a partner or have a partner who also is that way, how many times out of 10 are you gonna get that? I feel like I really lucked out with you in particular. Well, you're really just a blessing because there's just not really people like you, especially not at your age.
I
That's just
appreciate
the
you.
facts.
I do believe though
That's real life.
I do believe. I mean, I really do appreciate what you said. Yeah. Interesting. But no, I do believe what you're saying. It's like really just a matter of what people. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay. I was also just a kid, so
Yeah,
low stakes.
that's very funny. I thought if it was a grown person, I'd be like,
yeah.
But what you said, the society that we live in, what we have grown up believing. Yes, the past generation is different. Do I think that anything has fundamentally changed? No. I do believe that social media has allowed a lot more exposure to different types of men and how different men act.
Yeah.
And not just men, anybody, to be honest.
Yeah, I noticed it's kind of interesting that the conversation, even in like the gendering of it, is being directed towards men, but really it isn't inherently that way. But maybe it's just because I was
the
speaking
reason
about
why
you.
the reason why I say men in particular is because men usually tend to be a lot more reserved when it comes to their emotions.
Yeah.
And when they do talk about their emotions, they are worried that it could be attacked upon, stuff like that. I've heard stories from guys where, they're talking to someone and they say something that might be very emotional, very traumatizing or hard for them, but then it's treated as if it's, ammunition in an argument down the line.
Which I think is very demonic behavior.
But that's why I said it could be for anybody, because it's not only men, but it's also everyone else, women and anyone else in between,
The idea of taking something that someone shared to you in confidence and weaponizing it in a hostile manner within the context of an argument, there's something wrong with you. Now, I'm not trying to demonize people. Well, yeah, I thought it was demonic behavior, so I don't know. I feel like that's really like crazy, but
I don't think
I
it's
don't know.
demonic. I think what it is desperation to attack to attack someone because you think it's going to affect them. I think this affects men a lot because men, at least in a relationships, men tend to be a lot more calmer and reserved and everything like that. So the only way a woman can really get a reaction or a rise out of them is to say something that's really going to get them straight to the core, because for a lot of women, at least when it comes to conflicts, a lot of women feel like, men aren't really listening if they aren't interacting with the conversation. And we've had this issue before where, like, we'll be talking and you basically think, like, oh, the vibe is off because I haven't really reacted, or maybe my face is doing something. And then
your face is to be doing something.
I know, and I know. I can't control what my face be doing all the time, because sometimes I gotta fix my face because maybe my facial expression is conveying a certain emotion, and it's not necessarily that I'm trying to cover up or mask myself, but it could genuinely be the sun is in my eyes.
No, I understand that, and Kamani, you know that I know, for the most part, when there are external environmental factors that could be affecting your ability to be connected to the conversation. I have awareness of that. I'm also a lot of times paying attention maybe to what could be also an additional thought. There'll be times where I say, like, what's happening? And you'd be like, oh, nothing. Like, what's happening? And then eventually you may say, oh, well, this. I think sometimes the issue, and it can be, you said the same exact thing for me.
That's true.
Is that for whatever reason, we could be holding back communicating some current truth that we're experiencing.
Because we're
perception
scared.
Of truth.
We're scared
of it. Thing is, a lot of times when we share it, either we are, like, affirmed that it is not that what is happening, or we get deeper understanding of one another, and therefore the fear that we were having regarding whatever kind of conflict is
expectation bias.
Release, relinquished.
We expect this person is going to react this way if I were to say this.
Yeah.
But then when we say it, we're like, oh, okay, it wasn't that. Or it was a misunderstanding. Or maybe their view on it wasn't as deep as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't, at the end of the day, at least for a lot of couples, it could just be an issue of not wanting to damage something that feels good. Like, I can say that's definitely the truth for me, and I'm sure it's for you. It's like, we don't want to damage what we have because it's so good. But, that's the unfortunate truth about relationships, is it's not always going to be rainbows and sunshine. You do have to identify problems. You do have to face them, because if you don't face them and if you put them off, then that just creates more...
It bubbles up to
resentment, more anger, because someone's not feeling heard in a certain way. And it's going to show up in, different aspects of the relationship, The person might not be willing to hang out with you anymore, or it could be like that, Oh, you want to take me over to your mom's place to have Thanksgiving? Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
It could be that.
It could. I done told you.
Yeah.
I told you now.
So.
Yeah.
For sure. There's a lot of different things that we have to think about when in regards to each other, but also to the people listening, like, whenever you're in a relationship, don't be afraid to talk. That's the worst thing you could do, is hold off talking. I've learned that. We learned that today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, if there's something going on. And ego, in my opinion, is something that I had to learn to get rid of. You can't have ego and think that you're the know-it-all and everything that you believe is right. Nothing that you say is inherently wrong. That's not true.
And that's something that I deal with, because I have major know-it-all syndrome.
I mean, you are smart, don't even try. You're
No.
the smartest person I probably know.
I know. I'm often told, and unnaturally that could gas your brain into delusion. Everyone tells me I'm so smart, I must know everything.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, I don't. There's many times in which you are teaching me new things. I'm so eager and open to the things that you teach me because I consider you to be a wise person. Like you were saying, a lot of times though, that can show up in different ways, right? Like trusting your directions as it pertains to me maneuvering the vehicle, like, and not second guessing that. Because I feel like when you are in those moments where you're like, okay, yes, this is my partner, we're here, we're vibing, but then there comes a scenario which is like, okay, here you are in a split instant. You have to trust this person beyond the comfortable scenario you were just in. Are you open, available, and willing to do that in that split notice? You, maybe you are, I don't know. But me, not always so much, I'm finding. I don't know if that's a control thing. I don't know, like, if you were saying that's coming from things in my past that pertain, because I have went through many instances in my life that have greatly affected my trust. Not necessarily of people, but of their mind frame, if that makes sense. Like, I don't.
This is good. This is good because I believe, at least me personally, it's not just you. I think it's for a lot of women. When what it boils down to is just trust in someone, because it's hard to trust people when in your past, someone doesn't come through when they said they would, or they don't uphold their promise, or they just straight up lie to you, or cheat, or they change your perspective. It's a trust doesn't necessarily have to be damaged by a flat out lie. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Trust can be damaged from you meeting someone for the first time and you have an expectation. They tell you like, this is who I am, this is how I operate, but then later on they go and do something completely different outside of what they said their character was.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, you're a liar.
Mm-hmm.
You just broke my trust. Especially when you're emotionally invested into somebody. I could say that. So like, whenever we had that issue and you told me like, okay, you kept asking for more clarity, and I'm like, I feel like I've given you enough clarity in this situation. Do you not trust me? And then that's when it became, okay, it really boils down to trust, but you don't really know what that stems from. Again, that's me guessing it's from the past. It could also be because you are smart. And you're like, based on my knowledge,
it could be control.
Yeah, it's on your. It's like based on your current knowledge of a subject or a certain situation. You're like, I don't really know, and it's not to say that smart people are necessarily untrusting of everyone else, but I could say it definitely takes time for you to build trust or a rapport.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I have had in many things in my life, my family life, my, in relationships, whatever, where trust was hard for me to lend. And it wasn't always because someone was inherently lying, though there were definitive times where that was the case. Sometimes it was just like something about you that I really love and loved right off bat, which I feel like is a very masculine attribute about you. You have a level of like awareness and logical certainty over things that makes me feel very comfortable, that I can hand the reins over to you and that things will be handled. I don't have to think about it. Like when you said, oh, I have an idea about the plans for us. That was not something that existed in my past. It was 100% my responsibility. And if ever I turned the reins over, it was an actual hot mess. It was actually crazy. It was just so unbelievable. So if you might imagine then encountering you right off the bat, that's not how you are. That's just not even in your toolbox. That's just not how you operate.
I mean, I will say when we were like first talking and everything, I'm a person that likes to put my all into something. But when we first started talking, you were really more investigating me, and that caught me off guard. And so I'm like, oh,
What do you mean?
You know, you were extremely interested. You were very intrigued in what was going on in my life, and I never experienced that before.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. That is how I naturally am with everybody. But
I
it's funny
know,
because every single
but I
person
love
says
that.
that. That's the funny thing.
But I
Everybody
love
says that
that.
in
But
response to
that's
me.
but that is really a quality of your kindness, because you are such a kind person. You are always inquiring about, what's going on in your life. Tell me more. Oh, okay, okay. And then but you, not only do there's listening, but then there's active listening, where it's like you're actually bringing substance to the conversation about whatever I say. And so then it's like, okay, this person is genuinely listening to me, and I'm able to, say something of use, and it doesn't feel like I'm wasting my time, and like someone's actually picking my brain. Um, why is that important? Why did I bring that up? Because, well, because there is importance in me wanting to feel wanted, but then also when I feel wanted, it's like, oh, I'm finna go all in, yo. Put the chips all in, yo. I'm betting on this. That's why I was going crazy when I was out of state. I was flying back and forth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
I
it's
understand.
just like, I'm gonna make sure, because that was another thing I learned. I think that experience was good for me, even though it was extremely difficult.
Hmm.
When I was seeing her out of state, I had to travel back and forth. And every time I came to visit you, I had to make sure the time that we spent together
It was
was
very meaningful,
meaningful
worthwhile.
and quality. And it was good because we got to know each other, but we also got to do a ton of fun stuff. And then that also kind of boiled over into now, where it's like, okay, now we're official, we've been together for a while. It's like some days I'm just like, we got to do something, we got to plan, we got to do a whole travel itinerary, and like
Yeah.
get the whole thing
But
down.
that's what I love about see that's not inherent to people. I don't know if that feels like that's inherent to you. I feel like for you, you feel like that's just a part of you who are. I've encountered too many people. Oh my goodness, that genuinely that's not how they operate.
Well, that's
They get
really,
super comfortable. That's just not you. Just what I'm saying. That's why I'm
shout out
so
to my mom
like
though, because my mom genuinely was not a boring person. So
okay and respect.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
no, I get it.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Thank you.
part of it, it's like it got to be built into you. That's why. That's why with certain people, it's like when you start to detect, oh, that's just not in them. It kind of makes you feel like, oh, it's not in them, and I don't know if they can just suddenly develop that right now. Like
Right.
that's kind of something that has to be in them right off the top. That's how you were coming and presenting, and that's how you still are.
I
Do you not
appreciate
understand that
that. Yeah.
typically at the point in which the time that we've been together, by this point, people are so lax, just in the crib, in the crib, in the crib.
No, that's true.
We're outside right now.
That's true. But you remember when I met your dad, and I think I met your mom too. When I met your mom, they were
We
saying
met
they
them at the same
appreciate.
time.
Yeah, I met them at the same time. Sorry, but they were talking about like courtship,
Yeah.
and I didn't really think of the word, but it's like it's such an important word, because, and at least in today's modern age of dating, genuinely people be like, let's go to the movies. Okay, goodbye. It's like, me personally, I love the movies.
We do
We
love the
love the
movies.
movies, and we probably have a ton of videos about reviewing movies.
And child.
Yeah, but that's such a terrible first date idea, because it's like you're not engaging the person.
Mhm.
You're not really.
Especially if that's the only thing you're doing. If you're saying we're gonna do a movie and then do all this, we're gonna be finger painting and then we're gonna talk about the movie as we finger paint. We're gonna draw what we saw in the movie and we're gonna write this little
Right.
story. That's a different thing. I'm always see being creative is not like
That's why I said time is important. Time is money.
yeah.
People genuinely have dates and just it'll be 2 hours and then that's it. You can't get to know someone authentically in 2 hours. You need more time with them. Plan a whole day. Genuinely.
Our first date was so nice.
It was.
It was so thoughtful. All the dates that you would do were so thoughtful. Oh my god, I feel like I was going crazy in a good way. Because I was like, no, this guy has to be fake. He's one of those people that they love valuing you, and then they be crazy the second they start stabbing you up and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
not
what
do
I was
that.
nervous
Yeah.
about. But I also knew it wasn't giving that because your whole spirit wasn't even close to like
Yeah, if
that.
someone
But
is
you know what I'm
courting,
saying?
yeah, if someone's courting you, you gotta be
you just
thoughtful.
actually were a great person.
But that's another thing. Like, people can hype anyone up in a date, but you do have to be discerning.
Definitely.
Extremely discerning. Like, I was discerning for you when I first met you. You probably discerning me. Like, who's this man? Like, how is he acting? You know?
Well, yes, that's what I was saying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And everything was going good until she saw my driving. My
Yeah,
driving,
that
a
is
little,
true.
a little aggressive driver.
That was really crazy because he did that right off bat. He revealed it really quickly. Like, immediately really crazy.
But my driving is not that bad, I promise. I'm just a little aggressive, that's it.
Well, it was really crazy.
Okay,
I would
fine.
say currently it is relaxed.
Yeah, because I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Calm down, yeah. When you're driving her, calm. But yeah, yeah, for sure. Is a big thing is time. Time. How do we get here? From trust, right? Like, just trusting someone.
I feel like we've probably jumped around.
We've jumped around so much.
We have serious jump around syndrome.
We do.
Oh my god, it's been 21 minutes.
We get started. When is this?
We got to cut it.
You have to cut it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the conclusion of all of it? What's the summary?
Well, what we were talking about is how we navigate conflict, and just have good communication in our relationship. I do think we really touched on those things.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on the conflict.
Them together. We did though. We were talking about the today with the car.
That's true.
We were definitely talking about that. But you know, it's just somewhat.
No.
Thank you, baby. But I think the communication is what we really ended up kind of bridging into in the way in which it's because of the emotional intelligence. You being who you are.
That's not gonna be helpful for the people though.
I know, it's the truth, but that's why I said.
But I will say this.
I'll
say this. Everyone has said communication is the most important thing in a relationship. It is true, but you need intention. At the end of the day, anyone can talk, but if you're just talking to each other, but you're like what we were talking about earlier, we're just kind of like wishy-washy. You're not really getting to the point of what is affecting the person. The problem isn't going to be solved.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only that, active listening. Don't be humble.
Yeah, that's really important.
That's really important.
I think too, making sure you're speaking the same language when you're communicating. That's part of what we were saying. If I'm having one understanding of one thing that's being said and you have an entire different understanding of the exact same thing, that in and of itself, right there,
it's a problem.
But also then, if you are speaking two different languages, which can often be the case because you're two different individuals, knowing how to translate one another, translate yourself so that you can be understood by your partner.
And think before you speak is a huge one.
And I think constantly be checking in with yourself regarding your demeanor and your emotional presentation. So if you notice to yourself, you're saying, I'm talking loud. And if you're saying, was I the person that started talking loud? Or am I in response to the person who I'm communicating with? Were they talking loud and now I'm reacting?
Yeah.
And then if you have that awareness, adjusting your demeanor and asking them to adjust theirs.
That's true.
But also then trusting the partner you have that if you then say that they will do it, because sometimes people won't.
They won't.
They just keep getting hyped and keep saying stupid.
And that's another thing too, like being on the same page, but also the language that you use. I think it is extremely important that people realize in today's age of English, people don't be reading enough. They don't understand what they're saying half of the time. They're trying to convey an emotion that they cannot convey through words effectively. This is for everybody. You need to read. You need to learn words.
Get your emotion wheel going.
Exactly. Yeah. Understand how to convey emotion, because if you cannot convey emotion, the problem will not be solved. Because all you're going to do is confuse your partner as to what is affecting you.
And I think when you're able to be highly specific about what you're feeling and name it more directly, it allows for you to then consequently be able to resolve and move through it with more intention and
Right.
direction.
Right.
You know, if you're saying something too generalized, I'm mad. I'm just mad.
That's how I think therapy is. Therapy is very effective, but it's so funny to me because sometimes it's just like people go to a therapist because the therapist actually knows the word for what they're feeling,
Yeah.
but they can't really, put words to what it is. So yeah, read a book or two or three and embrace your emotions. Put a word to it.
And be intentional about the book that you're reading. 'Cause
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be any old book. As you know, I love my self-help vibes.
Yeah.
I love all that stuff. There's this book by Brene Brown that I really love. It's called like Atlas of the Heart. Good book.
Good.
Very good. I have too many of those, to be honest. But they're all good, and it gave me a great arsenal to pull from. So, what's crazy is you didn't read all those. You got that.
Now I gotta read it.
It's natural to you.
Well, I will say the best books that helped me were books that were. It really just has to do with a ton of characters. I can't really give you a genre of books. I can't really give you a subject for you to really focus on. It has to be a book that has multiple characters where the author is talking about their emotions and how they're talking to each other and what they're thinking too. It's extremely important because that is, in my opinion, the best way to really understand, how people operate, how people think, is from the words of a book.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is literally an author's mind on a book, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Cool. All right.
Okay, I think that's all.
That's it. Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.